Hey everyone, welcome to Lurking for Legends, a live video cast where we do live reads with amazingly talented authors of all genres. I'm Christy Stratus, historical suspense and historical fantasy author, and my awesome co-hosts are epic fantasy author Richard H. Stevens and science fiction author David
Oh,
M. Kelly.
hi.
Lurking for Legends is an interactive broadcast, and we encourage viewers to comment and ask us any questions you may have. So tonight we have fantasy author Kevin Kessler. We're so excited to have you tonight, Kevin.
Hey, oh my God, I am so thrilled. I've been waiting to do this for like months now. Like we talked about this like so long ago. So yeah, I'm super, excited and thrilled to be on the team tonight.
Awesome. Yeah,
Oh,
we're going to read
captain,
a
my
great piece.
captain.
We're going to read a great fantasy piece from you tonight. It's the first in a trilogy, I think. Right?
Yeah, it's a trilogy, but there's a novella that takes place between books 1 and 2. It was a subplot. Basically, I had like a subplot going on in the first book that followed a different hero, like on a different path, parallel to the main character. And enough people were like, "This is way too much of a departure, like from the main story." So they're like, they need to like meet. And I said, "Well, they don't meet until the second book." And they were like, "Yeah, then this can't happen in the first book." So we just kind of made it like a little mini story leading into the second book.
That's really fantastic. Did you love like input from other people and
Yeah, it was fascinating to me because the Rosinanti series, I started writing it when I was in high school. Like it was like my baby, like for most of my life. So to actually finally have people like when I had like a beta team read it and start to like give me input and like talking about my characters that have that for so long only existed to me and like were alive in my head, and I was just like, oh wow, this is new. And now that it's been published for so long, and I put out a book a month now with my current publisher, and it's a lot of fun now to kind of have that experience all the time. The dream come true.
Yeah, that's right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So for any of you who don't know Kevin, I think a lot of our viewers are already going to know you. But just for anybody who doesn't know you, let's just introduce you from scratch as if nobody knows who you are.
Sure. So, my name is Kevin. I grew up in New Jersey. I currently live in Orlando, Florida. I am a huge theme park nerd. On top of being an author, I am a professional wrestler and have been since I was 17 years old. And I'm also a puppeteer. So I do a YouTube channel with a puppet character where we kind of explore the theme parks of Orlando and help parents and kids plan their theme park vacations, just kind of in a family friendly, fun way that like where a kid won't be like completely bored by it. Actually, I got him right here. Hold on. Yeah, he's in his Christmas best today. So
I love it. He has little outfits. That's so cute.
Oh yeah, he's got like a million different outfits. I go to Build-A-Bear to get them. But yeah, that's Morty Monster, and he youtube.com/Morty Monster. And wow, I can't get over it's like mirrored on the computer screen. So I should probably stop talking through a puppet. But yeah, I mean, writing was really all
we could barely tell the difference.
But I mean, writing was all I ever really wanted to do. It's been since the moment I knew what a book was, I knew I wanted to make one. And I started writing Rosinanti in notebooks when I was supposed to be taking notes in class in high school, which is why my grades probably reflected poorly. But you know what? I became an author. I didn't become a mathematician, so it all worked out in the end. I also have a podcast that I do called Two Men and the Mouse. It's a Walt Disney World News and Information podcast. I love my Two Men and the Mouse family. We've been doing it for like 9 years now. And yeah, I live in Orlando, Florida with my fiance Rachel, our dog Taz, and I currently write. So fantasy is my first and main love in literature. I currently don't write a lot of fantasy just because of the publisher I'm currently with. So right now I do haunted house horror, paranormal detective, kidnapping detective mystery, EMP apocalypse, that kind of stuff. So that's been what's been keeping me busy. It's my full-time job. I put out an 80,000 word book every single month. And that's actually under the pen name Vincent Valentine. So that's VALENTEAN. So yeah, I keep busy.
Seriously, yeah, it's
Yeah.
really amazing. I can't get over that you can write that much and have a podcast. And I have also
That's
been
amazing.
privileged. Yeah, I don't think I could do it. Privileged to see some of these Muppets that you have come to life, and you actually hand make them like
I
yourself.
do,
You're not
yeah.
just buying these.
I hand make some of them.
Some of them.
Like the one you just saw, I bought him, and he was so expensive that I was like, hey, now that like like I just spent a couple $100 on this, if I'm gonna keep doing this, I really need to learn how to make them. So yeah, I make them by hand now. But yeah, I mean, as far as writing a book a month and doing all these projects, it's just a matter of just compartmentalizing it all and looking at it from one thing to the next, trying to make time for it, and then stressing out horribly and hating your life. Christy has seen me on deadline days where I'm like, I have 40,000 words to write by tomorrow. Yeah, but somehow it always gets done. So
We share our deadline stresses.
we do.
Push
We
each
do.
other to the end.
We do. We're just like, how much coffee have you drank today?
Oh my god. It's
Drink
too
more of
funny.
it.
It's just not enough. It's never enough.
Yep.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
but yeah, I'm just kind of living my best life with that. I've always found that, it's almost cliche to say like, oh, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So I try to fill my days and my career with things that I love. I feel like if it's not something you love, it's not something worth doing. As far as we know, we only get one go round. So fill it with things that bring you joy, things that create dopamine, and chase your happy. Because if the in my opinion, because people are like, wow, like you were a wrestler, you make puppets, you're doing all this stuff, and I'm always just kind of like, my greatest fear in life is that I will be on my deathbed someday and I will say to myself, oh, I really wish I had done that thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's worth trying everything. If it doesn't work out, then at least you gave it, at least you tried, and you know what you like and what you don't like. So try everything, folks. Do everything you want to do. Unless what you want to do is like hunt human beings, then don't do that.
Yeah. Exceptions to the rule, yeah.
Yes.
That's still frowned upon, for sure.
For sure. CJ says great advice. You're absolutely right, CJ. That is great advice. So let's talk about, let's go around and just talk about kind of like what we've been doing lately, update on our latest works in progress and stuff like that. Why don't we start with Richard, who looks amazing?
Yeah, I think I look like Squiggy more than Elvis, but I think I've spent the last 2 months researching Elvis Presley songs. I didn't know most of these songs, and I'm probably going to miss half of them in the narration, but I've got a few of them. When Legends Rise is book 4 of my High Cliff Guardian series. It's now about 500,000 words in, 500 pages in, and I've got about 7 or 8 story arcs, and they're all starting to come together. And I've been stressing. I know Christy's been stressing over the last little bit over writing and stuff like that, and it's tough because people keep asking me, when's my book coming out? When's my book coming out? I promised them it'd be out in September. Then I promised them it'd be out in Christmas, and it's not going to be out till hopefully. Well, we're aiming for the spring season when we do the new round of book signings in 2024. That is my goal now. It's just book 4. It's a culmination of a huge series, and it's like George R. Martin, where they have so many different story arcs going on, and it's tough bringing them all together because every story has got to play itself out, and then every story has to meld at the end at the same day, so that everyone's in the same place, same time. But it's coming well. I don't want to rush it. Like some people say, you got to get that book out, and I say no. The book will be written when it's written, and I try not to stress over the writing about it.
Hopefully, you're not like George R. R. Martin in that regard.
No, I actually George R. R. Martin. I used him. Actually, I just used him as a verb at a book signing I did on Sunday, where I was talking about one of my series, and I'd mentioned a line about this old elf queen, and right away I told him that I wanted to George R. R. Martin the series I was writing, and go back in time and write The Rise of this Elf Queen. But I didn't George R. R. Martin that series. I actually finished it. Then I went back in time, and I'm writing The Rise of the Elf Queen. So George R. R. Martin gets mentioned quite often when I do book signings, and we'll just leave that one alone. But yeah, so it's taken a while, but it's coming, and I'm happy with how it's coming, because there's some plot points that I'm just not sure of, because the characters keep changing what I want to write. Like I'm writing, and all of a sudden they go somewhere else, and oh god, I got to follow them over there, and and then I don't know what to write after that, because I've lost the train of thought. But if I let it sit, all of a sudden the train of thought just suddenly one day miraculously pops in there, and away I go again. So it's coming.
Yeah. Good.
And I'm doing a book show at the Hesper Legion. If anyone's in Southern Ontario, we'll be doing it Sunday this coming week. And then I'm doing another one, the Concordia Club, which is in Kitchener. If you're from this area, you know exactly where that is. Amazing schnitzel. I'll be there all weekend from the 24th, 25th, and 26th of November. So come out and see me, enjoy some schnitzel, and maybe pick up a couple signed books. How about you, Dave?
Well, I've been on a little break for various reasons, but I'm back to writing now. So I'm working on a brand new series after finishing off my Logan Two Feathers series. So this is going to be, again, science fiction. This one is going to be more of a military kind of edge to it. And it's set in the same universe as the Joe Ballon Logan Two Feathers books, but it's about 200 years further on into the future. So that's coming quite nicely. Quite pleased with that. What else has been going on? Not much really. Just kind of trying to get my head back into the flow. Sure. Although I did have a piece of very nice unexpected news about a week ago, when Quillation Storm, my first Logan's Two Feathers book, was taken into the semi-finals of the self-published science fiction competition. I think it's the SPSFC. And it got through the first round, and so it's now going to be read by more people, and then hopefully it will get through and go even further, I'm hoping. So fingers crossed on that one.
That's excellent. I mean, that alone is so fantastic.
So yeah, I was very pleased with that. It was very unexpected surprise. I kind of put it in. I didn't really hope for much, and there you go. So, but there you go. Awesome. So, what about yourself, Christy?
Yeah, I've been. I had, some of you who are friends with me on Facebook. I was in sort of a dry spell for my writing. I just had too much going on outside of the writing, and needed to prioritize all of that. So I just didn't have the time. CJ is congratulating you, David. So
thanks, CJ.
Finally, I guess it's been, I don't know, a week, a little bit more than a week. I'm not really sure at this point. I like never go that long without writing, and I hate it. So finally today things really opened up for me, and I wrote like 1,600 words, almost 1,700 words. It was an entire episode of Prohibited Magic. It's episode 21. I'm so thrilled, and it felt like it was behind a dam. You know what I mean? Yeah, thanks. It was just like waiting back there to get out, So all I have to do is edit it now, and then be able to publish it. So I'm really excited about that. I'm very happy to be back writing it again. And for anybody who happens to be wondering about the Nanopunk novella, I had mentioned like forever ago, and I had to prioritize this grimoire series because that's really what I'm publishing right now. I did get through a writing block on that too. And so now I have an idea of how I'm going to make it into, I was trying to turn it from a novella series into just a novel. And I think I have the ideas to go with that now. So it was a big like breakthrough week for me already. So, and that was all like today and yesterday. So who knows what the rest of the week holds. It better be impressive because I'm already excited. I've got a lot of great creativity flowing right here. So yeah, so it's been really good for me so far, hoping to kind of carry that through to the rest of the week. So that's it for me. And what about you, Kevin? You're working on your next book for this month.
Yeah, it's so I'm doing a paranormal mystery right now, and I'm using the character that I've kind of been putting in a bunch of my paranormal mystery and haunted house books right now. A character named Michael Merlin, who is gotten pretty popular with my regular readers, and they enjoy it. I inject a lot of humor into his stories. He's a psychic medium, so it's a lot of it's not mystical or anything like that. It's just very much like can hear, can see, can sometimes touch spirits. And he's an exorcist, so I got to write a fun exorcist story with him. Working on the edits for last month's book, which was an EMP novel, and of course I've got a fantasy novel eating at my brain right now that I'm like dying to like get down. Like I have like a bunch of ideas written down, and it's like the classic meme of like here's my work in progress, but like, oh, here's this other idea that I've got, but yeah, so yeah. That's going well so far. It's got to be done by the end of the month. So, a lot of coffee, and I've been using dictation now as a which is an editor. I'm sure you hate, but I've been using dictation software, Dragon, to write now, and I've found that it helps me write so much faster. I mean, it's the difference between 1,500 words in an hour to 3,000 to 4,000 words in an hour. And
Wow.
yeah, it really helps a lot. And, it takes a lot of like looking back and editing kind of as you go. But that's really been a game changer. I've also been experimenting with productivity stuff. So I just got a virtual reality headset, and I've been kind of like going into virtual reality into like I have this virtual reality program that mirrors my computer screen, gives me 5 screens, and gives me a sweet office and a space station overlooking the Earth. So
Cool.
it's it's a cool way to like keep your focus and kind of like power through and not have the distractions of like all your cool stuff being around you.
That is great. No, cooler stuff.
Yeah.
Focusing in space.
Yeah, well, nothing I can touch. So
That's what matters, right?
mm.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. So, okay, I think we're all set and ready to go into our first story, which is going to be Dave's. So, want to give us the setup, Dave?
Sure. Just as a kind of reminder that this is actually live. A little instruction for all of my fellow readers here. This story finishes at the end. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff I realized I left in the manuscript that was just the back of my book. So when it says at the end, that's the end, guys, just so you know. Okay, so anyway, yeah, this story is a very short story, and it had a bit of a strange kind of origin. In one of my other stories called Murphy's Law, one of the characters in that was involved in a military operation where she saved a character called Elvis 7. I threw this in as a little bit of color and sort of like historical background to add a little depth to the character, with no real thought of what this actually meant. Anyway, my wife, Hillary, picked up on this and asked what the story was behind Elvis 7 and when was I going to write that one. And so I resisted this for a long time because I'm not an Elvis fan, I have to say, but she kept bugging me about it. And finally, I had this flash of inspiration or madness and had the idea of this clone being programmed with everything from Elvis's life and speaking predominantly only in song titles. I thought that would be very difficult, but after doing some research, I found out that Elvis had recorded so many songs that it was actually quite achievable. And once that was there, the story just kind of came out. So there you go.
That's so clever and unique. I really, really dig that. And I am an Elvis fan. So
Oh, awesome.
have you ever? There's a movie called Blue Hawaii that got me hooked on Elvis back when I was in high school. It was this it's like a romance story in Hawaii, and I just remember like he jumps into the ocean and like his hair gets all wet, but when he comes out of the ocean, it's like perfectly coiffed again.
Of course.
After that, I was like, I love this man forever.
I love it.
So in this story, we've got Richard playing Elvis 7. We've got Christy playing the role of Garcia. Kevin is the chairperson, and I'm the narrator.
Any particular accent you want out of this?
Whatever you feel like.
I wouldn't do that, Dave.
You got to be the colonel.
Oh, hi ho, chairperson here.
That's fine with me.
Doesn't even mind.
So
How
we
generous.
start off with Christy.
Me. Okay. Good morning.
Garcia examined the patient's charts and made a small, satisfied grunt, moving closer to the altar-like treatment bed that dominated the dimly lit room.
You are Elvis.
Uh-huh.
Specifically, you are Elvis 7, the 7th produced since this project started. Though the first 2 were stillborn and technically don't count.
I'm all shook up.
Elvis looked around, his eyes unfocused, as if not really taking anything in. Garcia sighed.
A little disorientation is to be expected. Until 90 minutes ago, you were in an accelerated growth chamber. You've been maturated to the equivalent of 27 years old. Throughout this process, your brain was deliberately isolated while we implanted all memories and personal history available. You're not the Elvis. You are our product and belong 100% to Real Superstars Incorporated in perpetuity.
You're the devil in disguise.
This is going to be more difficult than imagined, thought Garcia. The memory implants needed more time to settle in.
Get some rest. I'll be back later.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Garcia shook her head. Scene break. The car pulled up next to the shadowed figure buried in a black trench coat, its headlights casting bright glimmers on the damp asphalt. Garcia wound down the window, grimacing at the smell of stale food, and who knew what else that immediately invaded the air-conditioned interior. It wasn't the best of neighborhoods.
Get in.
Elvis crouched, ready to run.
Got a lot of living to do, and it ain't happening back at that monkey house, no sir.
Garcia stepped out and approached with her hand outstretched. Her shoes stuck to the pavement with each step, and she had to fight to conceal her disgust at what she was stepping in. Elvis had improved, but still had that annoying speech habit. Perhaps it was inevitable given the training, but she wished it would stop.
You've already been spotted. How far do you think you'll get on your own? Several reports have been picked up by the news.
I'll be home for Christmas.
Elvis wiggled his hips.
It's now or never. When I think about what you boys are planning, if I don't get out now, I'll be nothing but your whip pup forever. I played that role too many times for the Colonel. I ain't doing that again.
A dog howled in the distance and sent chills up and down Garcia's back. She didn't try to point out that the Colonel wasn't part of this Elvis's life. Conversations of that nature only ended in more confusion.
We aren't ready for that kind of exposure yet. These things take proper build-up and preparation. Breaking cover now could ruin our plans. You wouldn't want that, would you?
Don't cry, Daddy. You can make another me in 10 minutes, I'm sure.
More like 10 years, Garcia thought. Too much acceleration had ruined the previous Elvis versions. If this one didn't work out, it would probably be her last chance to complete the project.
Please, Elvis. We start performance and recording training next week. You'll enjoy that. It'll be fun.
That's what you say. But I'm lonesome tonight.
Elvis looked away, his eyes low.
You folks plain forgot that there's a whole me. I'm a man. I don't have a wooden heart.
This again. She told the board that they should let Elvis have some companionship, but they thought it would be too much of a distraction. Now it was going to ruin everything. If only she could arrange something. Wait, There was the sister project. That would be perfect, and the subject was mature enough now.
Come with me and I'll arrange a treat. A special lady by the name of Paris. She's not much of a conversationalist, but I'm sure you'll find other things to occupy your time.
Are you sincere?
Certainly, my boy. You deserve it.
Garcia smiled. It was a tremendous opportunity and would help Paris 4's development too. How could the board possibly find a problem with that? It would be controlled and discreet.
All right, okay, you win.
Elvis barely resisted as Garcia guided into the warmth of the car. Scene change. Garcia burst from the studio, brushing sweat from her forehead. How was it possible, after all the work they'd put in? She had instructions to call the board as soon as the first session ended, but how could she break the news? She leaned against the wall, trying to control her breathing with little success. Her fingers trembled as she punched in the number, hoping no one would answer. Then the display lit up, showing the chairman and entire board, their virtual faces floating around the darkened office like ghosts.
Good day, Mr. Garcia. We've been waiting eagerly.
The chairman laughed.
You're early, so I assume things went well.
Garcia swallowed hard and tried not to retch.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Please give me a minute.
What's wrong?
The chairman scowled.
Is there a problem, Dr. Garcia? I thought you'd allowed for all possibilities. You have the best voice coaches, don't you?
All the voice coaches in the world couldn't fix the caterwauling and incoherent grunts I've just witnessed, thought Garcia. The studio door opened and one of the sound technicians ran towards the restaurant, hand clamped across his mouth. For a moment, Garcia heard the tortured wails again and tried desperately to shut her ears.
Good God.
The chairman's face filled the phone screen.
Was that?
Garcia nodded.
Live performances are out of the question, Mr. Chairman. Miming may be possible, but it will require a lot of coaching.
The chairman waved his fist.
No new material? That will cut profits by as much as 40%. How could you let this happen? You're supposed to be the best. You're finished. Do you hear? Finished!
Garcia withered. Perhaps she could reconsider the Trump proposal, though she hated the idea of working in politics.
There's always an element of risk in genetic manipulation, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps we can use enhancement techniques. The computer guys are getting pretty good at that.
What good is an Elvis that can't sing, you idiot?
The chairman reddened.
Is anything salvageable? How are his general performance skills?
Garcia thought hard, searching for the best way to describe the awkward, jerky spasms she'd seen.
Well, Mr. Chairman, there was a whole lot of shaking going on.
Ba-dum.
Love it.
It's a fun one.
Thank you, everyone. That was wonderful.
That was awesome. That was a great. I love that story.
Yeah, that's a really
Super
good one.
cool. Super cool concept.
It is.
Mm.
CJ thinks that Richard needs a career change to singer. Yes, I agree. You got the waiver going on. I loved it. That was fun.
You're too kind.
All right,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
The link is down there, to Dave's Amazon page. I don't think that story is on Amazon. Is that something they can sign up for, Dave? Or is that just not something that's out there?
That one is in my collection of short stories, Dead Reckoning and Other Stories.
Okay, so you can go to Dave's Amazon page to find all of his works. Anita says, delightful story. I thought so too, Anita.
Mm-hmm.
And Hillary says, fantastic. Richard is definitely the new Elvis. Yes.
I think the
I
cool
have
part
to
about it,
agree.
even though Dave said that this wasn't a complete story, it felt like a complete story. It felt
did.
like a short story. I'm a
It
fantasy
did.
author who can't write hello in less than 5,000 words. So I just marvel at people that can write short stories. And this is just like a short story. You don't need anything else with it, Dave. It's just awesome right from the beginning.
Yeah, you got everything. You got everything you needed, to tell that entire story, beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. It was a good one. It was a fun one to write for sure.
I'm sure. That's great. All right. Okay, now we switch gears and go into fantasy, and this is a serious fantasy scene with Kevin. So, tell us about this scene, Kevin, and tell us
Sure.
about the book.
So Rosinanti is set in a fictional, fantasy world. When dealing with things like magic and fantasy, I prefer to kind of work in my own world where I can kind of rewrite the laws of nature as I see fit, and not have to, go by what we have here in the real world, which is sometimes so mundane.
Yeah.
The So what we have here are two brothers, Valentine and Caden, both extraordinarily gifted physically. Both become the soulbound animus warriors, protectors, bodyguards of the princesses of the kingdom of Kakrita. Valentine vows his life to Seraphina, who is the very, very nice, David. I
That's
like that a
great.
lot. He vows himself to Seraphina, who is his best friend and has been since childhood. She's the princess. She's the younger princess. Caden vows himself to Alexandra, the older princess, who is kind of like not only the heir apparent, but also just very much the perfect golden child. It's so on a mission to open up trade negotiations, they stumble upon this cave, and they both realize that there's writing on the wall that only the two of them can read, because it's a prophecy, and in this world, a prophecy, it can only be read by those that it's about. And Caden discovers that the two of them are not actually human beings. They are the last surviving members of the Rosinanti dragon race, which was a race of dragons that were thought to have nearly destroyed the world and were driven into extinction. So with that comes their obvious physical gifts, but also the ability to transform into a dragon. Now, Valentine can't do that yet, but Caden has his power unlocked by this mysterious figure that they only know as the Red-Eyed Man. It's been this shadowy, kind of dark presence that's been following them around in their lives, only distinguishable through a dark black hood with a pair of burning red eyes that kind of pierce through the darkness. Very, very powerful being. And the Red-Eyed Man basically tells Caden, like, look, I can unlock this all for you. I can show you the depth of what your power is. And he accepts, and Caden then basically becomes drunk with this dark draconian power and transforms into a dragon and destroys this entire town. Valentine, Seraphina, and their friend Mora happen to survive this because Valentine's power kicks on right at that moment of death, and he's able to protect them from the blast. So what's happening now is Valentine is internalizing and dealing with a lot of these revelations about himself and what that means about who he is, while journeying with Seraphina while they try to make their way on foot back to their homeland. Mora has, that was her town that was devastated, so she's gone off on her own. And as Valentine and Seraphina continue through the wilds, they're attacked by two wild animals, which they manage to fend off, but they are both very injured in the process. So we pick up in this scene with Valentine and Seraphina both extremely injured after that encounter, and Caden shows up out of nowhere. And it's the first time that Valentine has seen his brother since his brother turned into a dragon and destroyed an entire town of people. So that's where we pick up. You ready?
Awesome.
Caden stood confidently, his animus uniform replaced by black knee-high boots and tight black pants trimmed in a deep crimson. A black hooded trench coat swathed his shoulders, coming down to the bottom of his calves. The coat remained open to reveal his muscular upper body and was fastened by 3 straps that ran along his bare chest. It was almost a dark perversion of his animus robes. Valentine wondered if it was Caden's sick form of a joke. That's you, David.
I'm confused.
Hold on a second.
Did I start in the wrong spot?
Our copy starts on rather than answer what Valentine felt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. You know what? I started on the wrong page.
That's okay. No, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Rather than answer what Valentine felt was a ludicrous statement, the Animus warrior spat blood onto the ground at his brother's feet.
Oh, my poor deluded kin. You went through all that trouble to save those 2 worthless humans, all for nothing? Look at that girl you pledged your life to.
Caden pointed to Seraphina, who had since succumbed to mystical exhaustion and fell into unconsciousness.
So pathetic, so weak, and yet you willingly tie yourself to her.
Forever.
Valentine replied, returning his brother's stare while avoiding the glowing red irises of the hooded man.
You selfish, arrogant traitor.
Caden replied, his words now laced with quaking rage.
You are one of the last Rosinanti remaining in existence. You think you have the authority to just disregard your life?
You're the one who threw your life away. You're the one who turned his back on everything our father taught us.
Valentine saw Caden's face twitch at the mention of Van. For a moment, he looked unsure, unsteady, and Valentine decided to press the issue.
You're the son of Van Buren, elite warrior of the kingdom of Kakrita. In the name of the good man who raised us, think about what you're doing.
Quiet!
Caden screamed, his eyes erupting in purple light as he shot his left arm forward. A slab of rock shot upward from the ground and struck Valentine in the chest. He fell back and slammed his injured shoulder into the ground. Valentine gritted his teeth to hold in the anguished grunt of pain caught in his throat.
Oh.
You think you can lecture me? That man is not our real father. He's just a weak human like your princess. Just like all these humans you want to protect. I'm going to show you how futile these efforts of yours are.
Caden raised one arm to the sky, and from up on top of the rocky hill behind him, Valentine heard movement. A figure floated down toward them, indistinguishable in the glare of the twilight, but unmistakably human. The silhouette had both legs pressed firmly together, with both arms stretched out to its sides, stiff and parallel to the ground. It settled between them, still floating above the surface. In the absence of glare, Valentine could see a battered and bruised Mora, bound at the hands and feet by large gatherings of black rocks. She looked at him in fear, and Valentine wondered if it was fear of Caden and the red-eyed man, fear of him, or fear of all of them.
Here you go, brother.
Caden said.
All that effort you gave, and I'm going to kill her. You bought her a paltry week with your heroic tactics. They're disposable, like insects. Kick over their hills and then stomp out the survivors as they scurry from the devastation.
Caden clenched his fists, and the rocks holding Mora's hands moved toward him, pulling them painfully backward and stretching her like a crossbow prepped to snap. She threw her head back with an anguished cry. Valentine wondered of the horrors Caden had inflicted upon her up to this point. She was clearly worse for wear and had been uncharacteristically quiet.
Stop, Caden!
Valentine rose to his knees, mortified.
Let her go. Take me instead.
Caden turned to him in disbelief.
Instead? There's no instead. There is her, then her.
He pointed to Seraphina.
And then you.
Valentine attempted to rise, but a simple flick of Caden's wrist shifted the ground and pitched him forward onto his face.
You're just as pathetic as them, but I'll oblige you for a second. Your pandering is amusing to my master.
Valentine now looked at the red-eyed man for the first time, taking in those soulless crimson orbs that held him with unblinking concentration. The thought that the shrouded figure could be laughing at his plight beneath that constrictive darkness was infuriating. Caden dropped his arm, eyes returning to their natural color. The rocks holding Mora broke apart and she fell limply to the ground. Valentine crawled toward her through the haze of pain, close enough to hear her murmuring at Caden.
Kill you,
she nearly whispered.
What was that, orphan?
Caden was relentless with his taunting, a hint of genuine amusement in his voice.
I'm going to slit your throat, you monster.
Caden arched an eyebrow.
Are you?
He slammed his black leather boot onto Mora's ankle. Valentine could hear the loud snap over Mora's scream.
See, brother? Stomp them out as they scurry away.
Valentine's mouth hung open in disbelief. The wound was horrific. Mora's ankle was twisted unnaturally, and a jagged slice of bone protruded through her brown boot. Caden glanced at the red-eyed man at his side and nodded, presumably in recognition of some silent, telepathic command. He stepped aside, and the hooded nightmare took one step forward.
You seek order, Valentine.
A haunting voice whispered into his head.
It offends me.
The red-eyed man summoned a strike of invisible energy which blasted Mora's screaming form through the air, smashing her body roughly on top of Valentine. The impact briefly knocked the air from his lungs. She cried out softly, still clutching at her ghastly wound. Valentine was about to speak to her when the red-eyed man pointed his claw-like fingers at them. He remembered this moment from his childhood, the calming silence before the pain. He barely had an opportunity to blink before the familiar red bolts of lightning careened from the shrouded figure's gloved fingertips and struck the two of them. A much more intense pain than the jolting he had received as a child tore through Valentine's body. Then, without indication, the pain stopped. Though the red-eyed man still pointed threateningly at them, a silent promise that he could and would bring the torment back whenever he chose. Valentine's entire body smoldered. He could practically taste the hate carried into him by those dazzling bolts of fury. Mora had gone still beside him, and he feared she may have endured too much. He saw Serafina lying off to the side, safe from the red-eyed man's magical assault.
There is no sense in murdering the heir to the throne of
Kakrita. The red-eyed man said, as if reading his thoughts.
I have rather important plans that involve her, so do not worry, Valentine. Only you and your wretched little friend here will die today.
He let forth the lightning once more. Valentine screamed until his mouth ran dry, until all he could manage was a hoarse gurgle that barely escaped his throat. Mora's body jumped and convulsed at the awesome power jolting through it, but she otherwise showed no signs of life. The red-eyed man continued pumping the crimson energy into him, and every second he fell under his wrath felt like an eternity. Then, finally, just as his vision dimmed, a glare of blue energy erupted between Valentine and the red-eyed man. The pain instantly abated. Valentine looked around for an explanation to his reprieve, gasping frantically. As he looked forward, the red-eyed man and Caden seemed distorted, as if he were staring at them through a wall of water. The flowing river of freedom had jumped from its steady streaming current and encircled Valentine, Mora, and Serafina in a tall cylinder of liquid that extended into the sky. The water shone with light blue energy, and Valentine could make out the distant red sparking of the red-eyed man's lightning blasting fruitlessly against the fluid barrier. Farther into the sky, Valentine witnessed a sight that took his breath away. Clouds swirled around them, shining the same bright blue, as if he were in the center of a luminescent hurricane. Outside the column of light, growing droplets of rain pelted the would-be murderers. Caden covered his face with his arms to shield himself from the vibrant moisture. The red-eyed man finally broke off his attack and turned his crimson gaze upward. Following his line of sight, Valentine vaguely made out a petite, feminine figure at the top of the swirling cylinder. She floated in the eye of the glowing hurricane and directed the flow of water and clouds with her arms, sweeping them about in massive circular motions. Even at this great distance, he could make out dual shining blue orbs where the woman's eyes should be. As Caden cowered behind the red-eyed man's billowing cloak, the floating figure thrust one arm toward him, and a shining blue bolt of lightning careened downward, striking the Rosinanti in the center of his chest. Caden was blown back and slammed into the side of the rocky hill. He crumpled to the ground unconscious. The floating savior threw her other arm down, summoning a second bolt of blue lightning which flew at a lethal trajectory toward the red-eyed man. He stood his ground, holding both gloved hands toward the oncoming attack. The bolt struck its intended target, and the resulting thunder crack of energy threatened to burst Valentine's eardrums. The lightning dissipated upon contact, and the red-eyed man stumbled backward but did not fall. Before the hooded figure could recover and counterattack, the glow intensified around the column of water. Valentine was violently snatched into the air, and then a blue glow rippled across his vision. And then there's a scene break. Caden woke on the ground amidst a terrible throbbing that reverberated through his entire body. He shook his head and tried to clear the muddled haze from his thoughts. That had been entirely too close. He did not think anything in this world capable of toppling him like that. Anything save for the black-cloaked figure that stood before him, with its back turned, gazing up at the sky. The realization that he had failed his new master and allowed their quarry to escape gave him immediate pause. What was the penance for failing such a being? Was his life now forfeit? He knew should this mighty sovereign deem him unfit and decide to end his life, there was no force on Terra that could save him. He trembled as he rose to his full commanding height, which dwarfed that of the cloaked powerhouse.
I'm so sorry, my mom.
His groveling apology was immediately cut off by a raised black-gloved hand, a silent order for him to speak no more. He swiftly complied.
You are sorry?
His master spoke aloud now. The voice amazed him. Its dangerous simplicity commanded awe.
What for?
Was this some kind of test? Surely his master, being the all-knowing, all-seeing being Caden had come to know, could not possibly have forgotten.
My brother and the 2 girls.
Caden replied cautiously.
They escaped us.
The hood of his master's robe turned with agonizing slowness toward him, and the burning red eyes within silently regarded him. He wondered, not for the first time, what thoughts a being such as this entertained. As that red-hot gaze fell on him, Caden felt like a small child once more, feeling as foolish before the Supreme Being as he imagined humans felt in his own presence.
Do you think me so weak, Caden?
The voice asked, dripping with an ominous sweetness.
Of course not.
Do you truly believe that they could escape me, had I not willed it? Do you have such little faith in me?
The cloaked figure now fully turned to him.
No, of course I believe in you. I didn't. It's...
How pathetic.
A rich voice boomed from behind him. Caden whirled around to see a brown-robed, red-skinned male standing amidst the remains of the pretentious that had nearly dispatched Valentine. He casually stroked the greasy black hair that cascaded around his shoulders as he advanced toward him. His lips curled in disgust at the creature's presence.
Stay out of this, Oryx.
Caden spat. He had met this particular annoyance shortly after he completed the massacre of Lasman. He instantly hated the frail, red-skinned abomination and had grown even less fond of him with every subsequent meeting.
Isn't that what you're best at? Watching silently?
Rather than retort, Orax moved past Caden and strode toward his master, sending a clear message to the young Rosinanti that he was not considered worth a response. This infuriated Caden far more than any possible witticism or barb. He glared in hatred as Orax fell to one knee before his master.
The beast cannot see the grand brilliance of your masterful design, O one who is all.
He said, head bowed in reverence.
But what can one expect from a creature so base? At least they are adept at hitting things.
Caden took a step toward Orax's kneeling form, but quickly calmed himself as the master's gaze shifted back toward him. He stopped short of his target, remembering that even had he reached Orax, there was nothing that could be done to harm him. It was exasperating.
Orax,
The hooded figure said.
what of your progress?
Success, my liege. The item you so desired from the Western continent has been procured.
Excellent, my loyal one. We draw ever closer to the end game.
Caden exhaled in frustration. He knew there was some massive plan put in place by his master, some grand machination that had taken years to set in motion. This was, however, all that he knew, and he burned with curiosity as to this greater design. He knew, though, not to question his master. Orax rose to his feet and turned back to Caden.
Ready yourself.
He said flatly, as one would instruct a beast of burden.
It will not be long now.
Caden asked, finding the concept of questioning Orax far less intimidating.
Until the Shobai rises.
Very good, very good.
I didn't realize I had chosen that much narration.
No, it's a good story. It's very exciting.
Thank you.
So much happening, It's a lot of action.
I write a lot of action in my books. A lot of major, I really enjoy like Marvel style fights, beings that can throw each other through buildings and mountains and things like that. But the thing that people have, the one thing I've gotten a lot of thank you so much, Anita. The one thing I've gotten a lot of compliments on it over time have been my action sequences, because as a professional wrestler, I learned very early in life the psychology of battle. How to tell a story through combat, and that's what you do as a pro wrestler. It's what you have to do to take an audience on a an emotional ride. So I try to inject that into these books, especially a lot of big battles. That was like one of the smallest action sequences in the book.
It's really cool that you can apply your wrestling to this, because it's not something that you would immediately connect You know,
Yeah, it was definitely a fun thing when I realized that like I could combine the two, that like, you know, one could feed the other. It's you know, wrestling prepared me for my career as a writer so much. It was character development, it was storytelling, it was you know, audience manipulation, it was all of those things. And yeah, it's, you know, passions feed each other and become, and all the whole becomes stronger as a result of it. It's funny though, like you know, like when you this was my first book, like I wrote this years ago, and like, you know, when you guys know, I'm sure you guys know, like when you look back on your old work, like, and you're just like, oh, I could have done that so much better right now, like like knowing what I know now, like as you mature as a writer, it's I legitimately have it in my head that someday I will rewrite that book.
Yeah, but do you really want to though? Like I was at an author conference a few years ago in Vegas, and Dean Wesley Smith was there, and he's written for years. I think he published his first book in 1974, and he said, you know, that book, looking back at it, is just like you described. It's something that he could have written a lot better now that he's this age, but he would never go back and change it because that was him then, and that's what his readers got used to. So
yeah, I suppose
I was at a book signing this weekend, and my book Soul Forge took me 35 years to write. And I always tell people that'll always be my favorite book of all the books I've written, and I will write. Soul Forge will always be my baby, but it's probably the worst book I've written. And that doesn't mean it's a bad book. It just means that's where I started as an author, and that's where I started to learn the craft. And so it's, yeah, I don't think I changed a thing. That's you at that time. And I think people will appreciate that when they come to love your stuff. They'll love to go back in time and see how Kevin J. Kessler wrote when he first started out, and I think they'll appreciate that.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, and that actually made me feel a little bit better, because like I'm sitting there, I'm like, I used him twice in like the same sentence, like like,
yeah,
you know, like I'm
Terrible.
That's what editors for. That's why we have people like Christy, and they teach us our craft. They help us fine tune it and you know, tighten our prose so that it reads a bit smoother and everything else. And after a while, when people like Christy browbeat you to death, but don't do that, do this, and you, all of a sudden you just start doing it in your everyday writing, and you can see the progress. And I always tell people, you know, I think that the next book is just a little bit better than the Fat book, and the next book's a little bit better now. When they ask me what's my best book, I say it's one on my computer that isn't even published yet. And as an author, I think we should always grow a little bit.
Yeah, and I think we're always our own like harshest critics.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, a few people that just commented that you know, they enjoyed the prose of the narration, and meanwhile I'm sitting there doing the narration, I'm going, oh, you hack, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, though. I totally know what you mean. Even though I don't see the same thing that you see at all, you know, I enjoyed it a lot. I know what you mean exactly.
Yeah, we all have that a little bit of imposter syndrome. It doesn't matter how many books you've written.
God, yeah,
It always creeps in there, like,
for sure.
really.
For
I have to say, Kevin, I'm going to have to give you a guest appearance in my next Hyperion Jones book.
I was going to suggest that, Dave, that you guys should collaborate. Dave wrote a outer space wrestling book.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, the lead character in this book, basically she's a pro wrestler during the day, and kind of like at night she's an interstellar jewel thief.
Oh, well, that's fun.
Yeah, it was just completely written for laughs, as almost like a palate cleanser. But it was good fun.
Yeah, wrestling to me is the purest form of theater, right? It is it's a comic book.
Absolutely grand theater. Yeah,
It's a comic book come to life also. You know, it's heroes and villains in colorful spandex, you know, waging battle against each other. It is literally a comic book. Like the second puppet I ever made was actually me as my wrestling character. And yeah, it was hold on, I'll show you guys. It was the first live hand puppet I ever made. His arms are too long. I'd like to shorten them, but that's a project for another day.
Oh, look at him. That is so cool.
Yeah. So I've done a couple of things with this, like, you know.
That is cool.
Yeah, but it's actually in Rosinanti there's a tournament in, I think, the 4th chapter, and everyone in that tournament is based off of somebody I knew in wrestling.
Oh, that is cool. That is very fun.
Yeah. yeah, that was like my little like homage to like that time of my life.
Mhm.
That's
It's
great.
amazing
I
how
love it.
things that affect us in life creep into our stories. We don't even know it sometimes. Like,
Oh, for
it sounds
sure.
like you purposely did that, but you read back and say, well, that's kind of the way I feel, or that's kind of my philosophy in life, and that's kind of these people that I've known. Like, these are my experiences, and you just dream them up as you're writing them on the screen, not even thinking that that's probably something that you've gone through or thought about or whatever.
Yeah, I found that happening a lot more. Like now that I'm writing a lot more frequently than I used to.
Mhm.
Like the book that I just finished. I found like part of the way through it that I was writing like a veiled message to my grandfather who passed away a few years ago.
That's neat.
And
Wow.
yeah, and so like in the epilogue, I hadn't planned for it to go here, but like the main character is standing at the grave of his father, who like he reflects on a lot throughout the book, and he calls him Pop, which is what I called my grandfather, and he like talks to him to his grave, and he says all the things that I wish I had the opportunity to say, and so like I'm like, oh wow, like that's me, like that's not even the character coming out right now, it's me, and like I'm writing it, and I'm like ugly crying, like while I'm writing it. It was
That's awesome. That's therapeutic too. Yeah,
That is.
yeah, you discover a lot about yourself when you
absolutely.
open yourself creatively to like whatever energies are out there,
Very true.
I think that like through writing, as much as I'm blessed to be able to write for a living, I've kind of like learned a lot more about myself. It is in a sense therapy. Like it's getting a lot of my own personal frustrations and views on the world out there, or caricatures of things that I hate,
Yeah, no, it's absolutely, it's so cathartic, and
Mhm.
it's really good. I think it's just good for us in general.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the scene that we just read with the luminescent hurricane, the blue hurricane, I had based the imagery for that off of. I remember when it came to me, I was sitting in a movie theater watching Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And do you remember when Dumbledore is doing this with the wand and the fire is going everywhere? I just had this vision of one of my characters, this like very small petite girl, and she's pulling the clouds around her, like, and it wasn't even like the scene itself, it was the music in the scene. Like the music in the scene created a moment for me. And like, you guys ever find that like music just like you hear a song or you hear a piece of like background music or instrumental, and all of a sudden like boom, there's a scene. It's just in your head.
It's music for me too. That's really what does it.
My whole 15-book series and probably 25 more books to come came from the song by Iron Maiden, "Run for the Hills," back in 1982. I was never planning on writing fantasy. I read fantasy, but I never thought about writing it. I wrote other stuff. And one night, the song "Run for the Hills" came on, and even though it's not a fantasy-ish song, it put my original trilogy in my head. Just bang, 1,200 pages. It's in my head. Now, it took me 35 years to write it, but it was there, and all because of one song. And I wasn't even looking for it.
I've always been the non-musical writer of the bunch.
Oh yeah, no music.
Doesn't do anything for me.
Oh, I always have music on.
Music for me, like people ask me all the time, they go, "What kind of music do you like? Like, what kind of bands do you like?" And I'm like, I don't really have an answer to that question, because for me, music is a creative device. Like my answer to that, and I hate this answer because it sounds pretentious, but I'm just always kind of like, whatever moves me, like whatever can pull emotion out of me.
That's true.
Because emotion is what, like, so I'll hear something that, from a band that I would otherwise like, and it'll do nothing. But then I'll hear like, the song 3 Days Grace, Animal I Have Become, and I got this vision of like my third book, like based on that song. It was that song, and there was a song called Stranger Inside by Shinedown, and I was like, the chorus is, have you ever been lost inside, so unloved within that you almost died? Have you ever stepped out of the light and realized there's a stranger inside? And then I was like, that's Rosinanti book 3.
Wow.
So do you start each writing session with that song then? That's what I do now. Every book I write, I have a different beginning song. I don't care what else I listen to after that, unless it's a sad scene. I'll put sad epic music on.
When I was writing Rosinanti, I had specific playlists made up in Spotify for characters. So when I knew I was writing from that character's POV, or I was writing a heavy scene for that character, I would hit that playlist and just kind of like allow it to
right to that character. That's cool.
With my current books, I guess because of the frequency, I'm not really allowed to indulge as much as I did with these. So I usually put on like Lindsey Sterling or like an EDM mix and just like instrumental, and it kind of just takes me where I need to go, like depending on the book. Like the last book that I wrote, the EMP book that I wrote, which I titled Empire of Shadows. We'll see if my publisher keeps the title. But the it's a mafia story. It's the first time I ever read a mafia story. So it was like a completely different kind of, music that I was listening to at the time.
I bet.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. That is cool.
I'm obviously so boring when it comes to this.
Playlists are good.
Different.
So I listen to different playlists for different scenes. So like if I'm writing a fight scene, I listen to like a heavy metal or something very fast paced alternative music. If I'm doing like a death scene or a emotional scene, I'll put on sad epic music just to get me in the mood. But every book, like I say, it has one song that for some reason just strikes resonates with me, and it'll be the first song that I play when I sit down in front of my computer. I'm probably not even writing what that song's playing. By the time I get into the Word document and everything else, that song's long gone. But it just seems to put me where I need to be. So.
Sure. Yeah.
The book that I've got sitting in my head right now that I desperately want to write. It came to me when I was listening to one of the songs from the movie Joker randomly came on one of my playlists, and it's the song from right at the end when he takes the blood and he puts the smile on his face, and it's like bum 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 bum, and like I just saw this like vision in my head, and I was just like, oh, there we go, there's another one. Like, it's such a cool moment when it happens, and then that's the only song you listen to for like 3 weeks.
Yes, right. The repetition is killer. Sometimes you have to play these things over and over, and sometimes they're like
6 months from now. 6 months from now, you go, geez, you just shut that song off as soon as it comes on.
Right. You never.
But at the time, it's amazing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Christy, there's a question there for you.
I see. Rick is asking me what playlist do I have. So I'm writing to him for the Grimoire series, and I'm going to post it down below. This is the playlist, and I add to it all the time. If I start out,
look at that.
I have a lot of different kinds of music on there, but it's mostly like epic music type stuff. There's Eternal Eclipse, if you are familiar. That's like a whole bunch of the beginning, and then there's specific songs and sometimes mixes, that are all like epic music type stuff. That really helps. But it's the same for me, Richard. I listen to like more mellow music when I'm trying to write an emotional scene, or sometimes like recently, whenever I'm going to write, I like some song will come into my head before I even start. And so I rush to the computer and find it. And that's the song. And I don't know, I didn't even know what I was going to write necessarily, but there it is, and it leads me forward. So, but this is like the playlist that I rely on. There's always something on it that's going to work for me. So I just kind of play through that.
It's funny you say that because I listen to Sirius all the time in the car, and the song I Love the Way You Hate Me came on, and I just loved the song, and I thought that's so awesome, but I didn't know what the song's name was, and I saw it play across, so right away I got the scrap receipts or whatever in my car, and I wrote it down as I was driving so that I'd remember when I got home and I could add it to my playlist. And then my wife saw the receipt, and she just, what the hell is that all about? I love the way you hate me. And then you just told me out of context. Why would you write something bizarre like that? And I explained to her it was a song.
That's pretty funny.
Then she just, whatever.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I will, Rick. Thanks. Yeah, he says to share that on Facebook. I definitely will.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to have to check it out too, Chrissy, but I can't do it on my laptop. I'll have to do it on my computer, but I'll do that later.
Yeah, you guys might find some things you like on it if you like epic music.
Oh my God. I'm definitely going to like jump into that. I got to absorb some of that Christy brilliance. Like,
I love it. I love it, Kevin.
Start writing Grimoire stuff.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
I am a proud patron of the Christy Stratos Patreon, which everyone should be a part of.
Thank you. Oh, I really appreciate that, Kevin. I'm on
My
it's
favorite
patreon.com
Patreon.
Christy Stratus. I really appreciate you being there too. I publish Prohibited Magic, once a week, and then if I don't have an episode, I publish something else that has to do with it. So last week, I believe I published, it was pictures. Okay, these are real Victorian pictures I found, cabinet cards of one of my characters. It looks so much like what I imagined for him. Like, not necessarily literally exactly the facial features, but it's the whole attitude going on, and it's just the coolest thing. I can't believe I found these, and they're real Victorian pictures. So, I posted those last time. So it's all that kind of stuff. So we did the scenes, behind the scenes. But mostly it's every week I publish an episode. So, you get all of that and you can sign up for however much you want. So, yeah, I really appreciate you being there, Kevin. It means a lot.
I love being there.
Yes. And thank you for being here as well. It was a great.
Thank you guys for having me. This was so much fun.
We appreciate you joining us.
Anytime you guys want me on, just let me know.
No, absolutely. We get you back on at some point, maybe next year. At some point, maybe we have a new book you want to.
Sure.
And stuff like that. We'll
always
get you back on here. No,
we do some of my dark fantasy next time. Because there's so many twists and turns in Rosinanti, and I didn't want to give away like just by doing this, knowing that they're Rosinanti dragons, that's already one of the twists of the book. So I gave one away, but that's the one everybody guesses. I'm not giving away
like a WWF show, and you and Dave can both read from wrestling stories.
That would be good.
Hyperion Jones and whatever you have there, Kevin.
I'll have to write one.
Well, there you go. Now, see, we're inspiring you to write a wrestling book. So, before we let you go, Kevin, I want to mention that in December our live read will be on December 12th, and we're going to be live reading an excerpt from one of my books. I haven't sent it out to you guys yet, have I? No, I don't believe I have. And from debutante author Rhonda Lynn Bobbitt, and I found her, or she found me. She read one of my books and she liked it, I guess, enough that she just suddenly shouts out my book titles all the time, and she puts reviews on for me. She's become a great fan, and all of a sudden I realized she was getting ready to publish a book, and she's in an anthology, so she got a shorter story in an anthology, but it's her first published story. So we're going to have her on December 12th. So hopefully everyone can come back and join us then at 8:00 Tuesday, December 12th, and we'll do another couple live reads at that point.
Awesome. Looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
So before we go, where can we find all your stuff, Kevin?
I
think someone posted your site on there, but
so my my Amazon, the Rosinanti series, all my fantasy work. So I have a Rosinanti series, and then I have another novella called Winters of Elnora, Birth of the Dark Angel, and those can be found if you look up Kevin J. Kessler on Amazon. They're written under my real name. The rest of my books can be found when you look up Vincent Valentine. So that's Vincent Valentean, and like I said, that's mostly horror. Paranormal, detective, haunted house, but also, post-apocalyptic EMP stuff, kidnapping detective novels. So, a wide variety of those. If you just look those up on Amazon, you'll find all that stuff. My YouTube channel, though, if I can plug that is YouTube. Yeah, youtube.com/Morty Monster, MORTY Monster. That is kind of my pride and joy right now. I'm really trying. We're doing both of the Disney hard ticket Christmas parties this month. We just did a Halloween Horror Nights video from Universal from last month, and so we'll be churning out content left and right this month. That's kind of the goal right now.
It's exciting.
Awesome.
In your video, I love your Morty the Monster videos. And
thank you.
There's another channel too with Puppet. That's just so much fun. I think it's movie reviews. I just love the puppet. You really can't not love the puppet.
Yeah, thanks. It's much harder to hate on a puppet. So
yeah.
When it was time to create the Morty channel, I was like, there's a million Disney World vlogs out there. There's a million theme park video blogs. There's a million white guys standing in front of a camera being like, "Oh, this is the Magic Kingdom," but there's only, as far as I know, one puppet so far. So
yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
So, does anyone else have anything to add? You got something to add there, Dave?
No, not really. I just remembered that I forgot to mention earlier that, of course, I'm currently publishing my Joe Ballon prequel novella.
Right.
With episodes out every Thursday morning. So we are up to episode 5 this week.
Are you doing that through Vella as well?
Nice.
No, it's through my website. So it's davidmkelly.com.
Oh, I see. So just people just go to your website and then get a.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
It's posted as blog posts. And
All
it's
right,
got
awesome.
special custom graphics for each episode,
Nice.
as made by me.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, so that was it. I just forgot to mention it earlier. Sorry.
Oh, we'll forgive you.
Great.
Anyway, thanks again, Kevin, for coming on. We really enjoyed having you with us. Great story, great reading with us, and we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you guys.
Thank you for making our show that much nicer.
Thank you for having me.
So for everyone, until we meet again on December 12th, we wish you a very happy month of November. I guess we got the American Thanksgiving coming up, but Dave and I are in Canada, so we've already had our Thanksgiving. We're still recovering from all the turkey, so you guys are just getting ready for it. So happy Thanksgiving to the people south of the border, and we'll hopefully see everybody on December 12th. Until we meet again, take good care. And I guess you're going to sign us off, Chrissy. I'm so used to signing us off, but I can't do that today.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Whoa. I think we're still live. I'm not sure where Christy went.